Welcome to the show. I'm John DeBona, and I'm glad you're here. This is where we cut through the noise and break down the issues happening in our country. Today, we're tackling a critical issue that threatens the foundation of our democracy: Project 2025's attack on our judicial system. Before we dive in, I want to take a moment to remind you to visit turnleftpac.org, where we're working to fight back against the far right agenda that's threatening our democracy. Support the work we're doing and stay informed about the issues that matter most. This show is all about keeping you up to date on the political developments shaping our country and giving you the tools to fight back. Well, joining me today on the show is Kimber Watson, who's been closely following Project 2025's attack on the Department of Justice. Kimber, right here, Project 2025 outlines to give the president more control over the DOJ, especially right here on pages 24 to 27, with reforms to the Office of Legal Counsel on page 48 and reclassifying civil servants on pages 110 to 112. How about we dive into this?
Okay, John. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. Welcome to the show. Um, so, how would Project 2025 impact the Department of Justice and its independence?
Well, I think the first thing we have to remember is when the Constitution was written, and they formed America, they set it up so that there would be three branches of government. So we would always have a check and balance. We have the legislative, the executive, and we have the judicial. If the DOJ is put with yes men, that's what I call them, to the Trump administration, it's going to affect the whole legal system. As far as I can see, I mean, we have been
Absolutely. It
seeing.
seems like it would, if under Project 2025, the DOJ would fall under tighter control and then
Uh-huh.
exactly undermining its independence, just like you
Right.
said.
Yeah. What's really crazy is, John, if you look at everything that's happened in the last 10 years with the courts, uh, you know, sitting, well, first it's all started with that day that Merrick Garland was nominated to be the uh SCOTUS, and then Mitch McConnell was like, "Oh no, we're not going to do that. It's too close to the election," which was really BS if you ask me. Um, because they should have sat him. They should have sat him. But what it did was it opened up a place for them to be able to mold the courts the way that they want them to be. And one of the things that we've seen, and we've even seen it like during the Trump administration, when he had Bill Barr under his thumb. I mean, even Jeff Sessions was under his thumb. And it's like, if you have somebody that's the head of making sure that people don't get away with fraud or abuse or whatever, and they're only doing what the president wants, that's not a free and fair uh, government. And that takes away the checks and balances. We're losing our checks and balances faster than we can blink our eyes. And I'm so worried that people are not paying enough attention. If people start paying more attention, I think that they will see, like, hey, wait a minute, what's going on? But people don't, they keep, I've seen so many people. I should say, not seen. I have talked to a lot of people, and they either don't know what Project 2025 is, or they believe that Donald Trump has nothing to do with it. And I ran into somebody at the store the other day, and I mentioned it to, I had my button on that says no to Project 2025. And the person said to me, well, it's a hoax. That's exactly what this guy at the check stand said to me. And I said, well, if it was such a hoax, I says, why is there 140 people from the Trump administration who helped design the document? And I said, the other thing is, why is Donald Trump's name mentioned over 300 times in the document?
Oh, good point.
Yeah. So it's just really crazy because it's like whatever Trump was doing in his administration, trying to fix the courts, and Mitch McConnell and the rest of the conservative party have been like right behind him, trying to manipulate the DOJ and the courts. And what do we have now? We have 3 justices that were sat, who, after they were sat, even though they said they wouldn't touch Roe v. Wade, they ended up getting it overturned. And what kind of implications has that opened it up for? I mean, women are dying. Women can't get access to health care that they so desperately need. And one of the things is somebody says, well, the reason why, Roe v. Wade was brought to the Supreme Court in the first place was because of privacy issues. Well, if that's the case, then why did they overturn it? Because privacy in your healthcare matters. And one of the things I don't hear people talking about is the HIPAA, the Health Insurance Privacy Act. Why are we not going, hey, wait a minute? These states that have dismantled the abortion rules in their states, they want people to they want to be able to have access to patients' medical history and their medical care. And that is so wrong. And if Donald Trump becomes president, he will not only be able, he will not, without going to court. That's the thing that pisses me off. Or not even going to Congress. He'll be able to change the way the DOJ works, the courts work. I don't know. It's just
It
like
would.
so much, like so
It,
mind-boggling.
Yeah, it would give him the ultimate authority to direct
Mhm.
investigations and prosecutions, including those against political opponents.
And that's what's scary because he's been saying all along since 2022, he stands up there and he's going to go after these political opponents. He thinks Joe Biden needs to be in jail, Hillary Clinton needs to be in jail, and who else? I mean, sometimes I when we do this, sometimes I think, you know oh, this is a risk. This is a risk. Being out there talking about this is a risk. However, democracy is more important than the risk that I'm taking having a conversation with between you and I. You know, my freedom is more important than than the whatever the repercussions can be. Um, and that's kind of how I look at it. But one of the things, I mean, whoa, I get so frustrated when I talk about this sometimes because we have seen in the last 4 years, just the last 4 years, how Donald Trump has manipulated the system to his benefit. He has the money. If you and I had half the crimes brought against us, indictments brought against us, we wouldn't have the money to take it all the way to the Supreme Court or to appeal
Exactly.
it or anything like that. And what they want to do is they want to dismantle the whole of it. And when they do that, what's going to happen is this whole country's just going to like be under an authoritarian control. That's basically what it is.
Indeed. This erosion of neutrality in the DOJ would set a very dangerous precedent where law enforcement becomes a tool for political retaliation, and the idea of fair and impartial justice would be severely compromised. Which this
Mhm.
leads us into our second question on this topic. Um, Kimber, what would this mean for the rule of law in America?
Wow. Um, John, that's one of the things that scares me the most is, we're already seeing the rule of law being pretty much dismantled on a daily basis. I mean, when people commit crimes and they're able to manipulate our justices in order to be able to get out of trouble. That's scary. But here's the thing. I want to be able to figure out how to say this right. But first of all, we're talking about these people that will be in the DOJ and in the courts will be political appointees. And we need to remember political appointees. They won't be civil servants anymore. They will be political. They will be his allies. And when you have a system like that, you no longer have a democracy. You only have an autocracy. I mean, can you imagine? There's going to be over 400 million people who can be put out of work that are civil servants with the DOJ and work in the courts and things like that, because they want to replace them with people that are going to say, I'm going to support this conservative president no matter what. I'm going to do his bidding and only his bidding. Doesn't matter what has been put into place, because they've already told us they want to. Even Trump said, what did he say? I want to tear up the Constitution. He said that. He said that on national television. But yet he says he didn't say that, even though he did say it.
Right. So I mean, if politicizing the DOJ wasn't enough, Project
Mhm.
2025 also aims to take our courts in another direction by stacking them, like we were talking about with political loyalists. This next move puts the entire legal system at risk, turning judges into puppets for a far right agenda. And after the break, we're going to dive in how they plan to pull this off.
When I ran for Congress, we flipped more Trump voters blue than any other congressional race in the country. We did this by calling out the GOP's lies and speaking truth against their million-dollar attack ads. I've now partnered with Turn Left, and we're taking the fight to the extremists like Marge the Trainwreck Green, Ted Cruz, and Josh Hawley, to name a few. And I'm asking each and every one of you all to donate $25 today to the group that is absolutely helping to send these jackaloons packing. It's time to speak truth to power and turn left.
Well, Project 2025 includes reclassifying thousands of civil servants, making it easier to replace career officials with political loyalists. Kimber, how does Project 2025 plan to reclassify civil servants, including judges?
Well, I think the whole idea is to make sure that whoever is in those positions will be people that are, like I said before, political appointees. They just want who they want running the government, not the people that are running it now, because the civil servants. Okay, let's back up. Civil servants are supposed to be nonpartisan people working in the government. Okay.
Exactly.
Basically, what they want to do is they want to make it partisan. It's a partisan government. We're already seeing uh, in Congress, let's use Congress alone, how politicized it's become and how partisan it's become. Um, you rarely ever see a bill coming out of the legislature that is bipartisan anymore. We don't see that like we used to. And then when we get back to like the DOJ, and like I said, it's like Bill Barr. You know, I give Bill Barr credit for saying, hey, no, the 2020 election wasn't stolen. That, I'll give him that credit, but that's the only credit that man will get, because if you go back to with the Mueller report, an independent investigation that was done on Donald Trump, and it was manipulated to the point where it sounded like Donald Trump did no wrong. But when you read the report, you're like going, it's a head scratcher, is basically what it is, But we've seen, like, here's one of the things we've seen just recently, okay? That Judge Eileen Cannon, who was appointed by the Trump administration, dismissed Donald Trump's case based on immunity. It's like, wait a minute, hold on a minute. The man steals records from the government and keeps him in a bathroom, and the charges are brought against him, but she dismisses it. And if you watch like every hearing that she's done, like with him, it's like she's always was siding with Donald Trump. So if that's the kind of judges that they want to put in, that's not fair to the people. It's not fair to anybody, because it's like these judges are supposed to be there non-biased to interpret the law and to enforce the policies and procedures.
Absolutely. I mean, what do you think the long-term consequences of such a move are?
The long term is going to be awfully scary. I mean, and I've said this before, they want to take us back pre all these things. One of the things that bothers me the most is that people who are white collar workers or who are billionaires, millionaires, or whatever will be able to get away with pretty much freaking anything they want. Okay, we're already seeing Donald Trump getting away with murder, after January 6th. I mean, I want to hear that hearing. I really want to hear that hearing, before the election, not after the election, because that's my right. I've said it before. I don't hate Donald Trump. I don't like what he stands for. And I don't like the fact that he tears our country down on a daily basis. This is not a bad country. However, if Trump gets into office and he puts his political appointees into the Justice Department, into the court system, what was it about the police? They want to defund the police. They want to do all these things that are our protections. He just sat there on a couple of days ago. What did he say? Oh, women will no longer be afraid. That he was going to take good care of women. That man doesn't give a shit about women. A man who tells somebody, when you're a star, you can grab them by the whatever. That man has no respect for women. And if he's back into, and I know I'm going a little off the bridge here, and I don't mean to get into the weeds. I really don't. But the thing is it's like, with his mentality and the way that he tries to manipulate the people, we're talking about a downfall for this country like you've never seen in any other country. He thinks that we're a third world country now. If he gets his way and they get to change the courts, the DOJ, they dismantle the Department of Education, and all the things that they're talking about in this one little document, people are going to lose jobs. People are going to have to be subjected to working longer hours without getting the same pay. And the government will be ran like Russia or Iran. I think Trump wants to be the new Ayatollah, is what he wants to be.
And the hits just keep on coming because Project 2025 doesn't stop with the courts. It goes even further by undermining the very agencies that protect consumers and workers. Now we're talking about weakening the institutions that keep corporations in check and safeguard everyday Americans from exploitation. And when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about how deep this goes in weakening consumer regulatory protections.
Today, we have an amazing show for you. Join myself, special guests, and celebrities.
What's going on, Ice-T? Andrew Yang.
Somebody else was hopping on.
Oh, hold on.
What's going on, battle?
As we roast GQP Jackaloons.
He may not be a real businessman, but he is one hell of a con artist.
That's what it is. That's what they got indicted for. Treason and sedition.
And addresses the headlines of the day.
They must be held accountable.
Live streaming every night.
I got more time in a friggin' port in a friggin' combat zone than you probably got in the military.
This is Ojeda Live.
Well, this brings us into our final topic of the day, weakening consumer and regulatory protections. Kimber, how would Project 2025 affect agencies like the Federal Trade Commission and the Securities and Exchange Commission?
Oh, wow, John, dang, that's heavy. I was just thinking, yesterday I was listening to the hearing for the appeal for Trump's business fraud case, which he was found guilty. Okay. But yet he's appealing it, because and one of the things they kept saying was nobody was harmed. Nobody was harmed. These pieces of government that we have, the legislative, all the governing bodies, they're supposed to be there to protect the people. And oh wow, can you imagine? I mean, well, let's put it this way: they're there to protect the people. If we eliminate those things, they're not going to be able to protect the people. Yesterday, when I was listening to that case, I'm like going, the law, the statute that the one code that they kept talking about, when the judge read it to me, I kept going, well, it doesn't say that the people have to be hurt. The rule was actually implemented so that it would keep people from harm. If they eliminate these things, these protections, we could end up with another crash in the stock market. That would be, we all remember what happened in 2008 with the housing crash. I mean, these things can all start coming back in full.
Indeed. And this leads us into the second question. I mean, we're right here on it. What does this mean for everyday Americans?
Well, you know what? That's that part is everyday Americans are struggling right now, and uh, we're struggling because of some of the things that were implemented in 2020 and before, during the Trump administration. Most people don't understand or realize that things that happen in a presidency usually don't take effect until like the third or fourth year, and then you start seeing it all unraveling. They don't realize that when, like, okay, let's use Obama and Trump as an example. Obama worked really hard to get the housing crisis under control and implement new things to make things better for the people so that we wouldn't have another issue like that. He saved the auto industry. He did all these things. And just as all his stuff was starting to really come into effect, in comes Donald Trump. Well, the whole time Donald Trump was in presidency, he was riding on the Obama administration's changes. And people don't realize that it was Obama who made those changes, and that's why we were doing so good. Right now, we're doing so bad because of the things that Donald Trump implemented. Fair trade? Come on, really? Oh, sorry, John.
No, you're absolutely spot on. I mean, if this goes through, the American people would lose vital protections against corporate exploitation, unsafe
Exactly.
products, and fraudulent business practices.
Mhm.
It's a direct attack on our civil rights and our ability to hold the powerful accountable.
Right. And here's the thing is, Donald Trump always tells us what a powerful man he is because he's so rich, right? But yet the things that he wants to change will only make the rich richer and the poor poorer. And the middle class, there is no middle class. We need to bring the middle class back. That's one of the biggest problems we have is that since Donald Trump was president, it's like the whole middle class just was eliminated. And now we have a chance to bring the middle class back and maybe help people in lower income neighborhoods to be able to get a leg up. But if this happens, if Donald Trump gets elected again, we're going to all be in trouble. We're going to be in serious, serious trouble. Because we won't have any protections. I mean, his fraud case right now, this one that I was just talking about, that alone should tell the people what to expect in the next Trump administration, because he wants to take away everything that protects the people.
Indeed. Kimber, thank you so much for this deep dive into this topic. Folks, there you have it. Project 2025 is not just an attack on our courts, but an attack on democracy itself. And it seeks to consolidate power in the presidency, politicize the justice system, and strip away protections that have been safeguards for us for decades. If this doesn't get you fired up, I don't know what will. Kimber, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me back, John. I'll see you soon. Take care.
Absolutely. Project 2025 is about one thing: consolidating power. From the DOJ to the Supreme Court, this plan would destroy the checks and balances that make our democracy work. It's authoritarianism, plain and simple. And it's up to us to fight back before it's too late. Keep pushing, keep fighting, because we're not giving up the future of our country to a playbook for dictators.